The practical equity walkthrough cycle involves 4 steps. In the first step, the teacher meets with the team and asks them to observe her focus students. In the second step of the cycle, the team visits the classroom to observe the focus students. In the third step, the team gathers to share what they observed. And in the final step of the cycle, the team returns to the classroom to see if their feedback worked.
Well, an equity walk is a kind of a student observation protocol where classroom teachers are really going in the classroom to really discern what are the best practices that work for particularly youngsters. The equity is really kind of focusing on the specific students in the classroom and then giving feedback to that teacher on how the students responded to that instructional practice.
One of the key parts of the equity walkthrough is the equity team. This team functions like a residence team, giving feedback about how the students are responding to the instructional practice. Unlike the traditional walkthroughs, where the focus is on what the teacher is doing, the practical equity walkthrough team focuses specifically on how the students are learning.
Part of the equity walks, and I think the ease of the implementation, is it takes the onus off of looking at the teacher and really focusing on how the students are responding and giving that critical feedback to the teacher on, did that practice really get the positive effect you were looking for, or what could have been tweaked to get that positive effect. So it's a different way of looking at the walkthrough process.
Justin, why do you think the forest would be noisy? What do you know about forests already?
The key part of the equity walk is the whole coaching cycle of allowing the teacher to tell us what to look for. And I think that's a real critical nuance of the equity walk, is that the teacher who's being visited, if you will, because the language is very critical. So we don't want to muddy the waters from observation, so we call it visitation, if you will. The teacher allows us to, they give us the information they want us to look for.
We'll be looking at Kyra, and Kyra needs skills. She has a strong desire for attention, and sometimes it's misdirected attention, and her skill level falls short of what she thinks that she, her confidence kind of exceeds her skill level. And I'm thinking that maybe this kind of meets both needs for her, the need for attention that she's desperate for, and also to just sort of boost her into, oh, what am I really supposed to be doing here? And I've got to do it, So I'm hoping that will kind of help. She'll be one of the kids too.
What feedback would you want from us?
That's a good question. I think in general, is this lesson one that you think is valuable in general to raising comprehension for the children? Do you think that they are able to do the task with pretty good success? Are they engaged? And are my target kids able to show their learning as you're watching?
During the classroom observations, the practical equity walkthrough teams use a standardized data collection sheet to record their observations.
This becomes a very solid data collection sheet. And the 3 phases that part of the equity walks is frequency. How often are they using the strategy? The second phase will be the level of quality. To what degree of quality is it being implemented? And then third is the level of effectiveness. What results are we getting? Are kids actually attaining the information? Can we measure that on either a standardized assessment and more often an observation? How kids are engaged and how they're engaged in the teaching and learning process.
The data collection form used by the Practical Equity Walkthrough team was developed by teachers based on areas of instructional emphasis. They are called equity pillars.
We've identified through the equity team what are some key pillars that we're going to focus on as a school-wide practice, and they became part of these components. I think the key part of this document here is the rubric that needs to follow behind it. That rubric is, to what is a quality checking for understanding. What does that actually look like? So we can, how do I say, make it transparent for the teacher that this is a level 4 from a rubric from 1 to 4. So that level of quality, so we want to make this as transparent as possible. So even though there's a lot here, it creates an opportunity for the teachers to really say, this is exactly what I should be targeting for with those particular students.
The Practical Equity Walkthrough team spends about 15 minutes in the classroom observing either individual students or the entire class. Then they leave to discuss their observations.
The debrief takes around 20 to 25 minutes with the equity team before that teacher comes into the debrief. So after the equity team members have that conversation, then the teacher who was visited comes in, and then now we have the discussion using the data collection sheet and that coach having reflective dialogue. So that would take no more than 20, 25 minutes as well.
Tell me more about that. What are you thinking about upping the rigor?
There's a coach involved, and the coach is the one who really asks the reflective questions to the teacher and have that teacher really reflect on, did the kids get it? Why didn't the kids get it? What could I do differently? And the critical part of that whole coaching cycle is to have the equity team come back into the classroom. When do you think that we can come into the classroom to see that?
Tomorrow.
So the teacher is going to say, well, I'm going to try something different. And then that equity team gets back in the classroom and continue to help with that, kind of almost that reciprocity of the coaching and the coachee type of approach. Any other questions? The key part of this is the person who learns the most out of the equity walks are the equity team members and not the person being visited. Because what they'll see is, wow, I saw that practice and I can deploy that back in my classroom. So that's a very powerful piece of it. So everyone is learning in this process. Seeing today was a powerful day. Share with me your reflection about the whole process of the equity walk.
I thought it was important, the climate of the classrooms in both lessons. The students felt safe. They weren't afraid to have a wrong answer, and I really think that that's important.
The importance of continually heightening our awareness of our own adult actions. We all go to the same schools and read the same books and have the same strategies. But it's our awareness around our own instruction and what we do on purpose that elicits the responses that we're getting from kids. And that can't be done in one person's mind. It took all of us to get that out today.
As we have seen, the Practical Equity Walkthrough cycle involves 4 steps. In the first step, the teacher meets with the team and asks them to observe her focus students. In the second step of the cycle, the team visits the classroom to observe the focus students. In the third step, the team gathers to share what they observed. And in the final step of the cycle, the team returns to the classroom to see if their feedback worked.